right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are here to sign and celebrate two bills, House Bill 2995 and Senate Bill 1723. The issue of domestic violence is what led me into public service. Working with abused women and children, I saw time and time again how our laws fell short of keeping people safe. Lawmakers at the time refused to do something, and so I took action and I ran for office myself. And I see that same spirit in Hope Hooton. She took action because her children, Alec and Lydia, were murdered by their father, something that no parent should ever have to experience. And she's taken that tragedy and fought to ensure that no parent will have to again. House Bill 2995, also known as the Alec and Lydia Act, brings much needed change to laws relating to domestic violence and child custody disputes. For far too long, child custody decisions have not adequately factored in whether a parent has a history of domestic violence. The laws have kept the courts from protecting children in so many of these cases. Now, because of this law, the highest priority when assessing child custody disputes is the personal safety and physical, mental, and emotional well-being of both the children and the victim of domestic violence. This law requires that all allegations of domestic violence are resolved before any legal decisions are made regarding child custody. It outlines precautions that the courts can impose on the parent who has committed domestic violence, and it recognizes coercive control as a form of domestic violence. And because this bill was passed with an emergency clause, these changes are already in effect. And with Senate Bill 1723, we're further protecting victims of domestic violence. 1723 provides an opportunity for the victim to know where their offender resides or works so that they can take those things into consideration in planning for their own safety. This law also automatically includes children in certain protective orders. These bills are going to protect children in Arizona. Filicide is an issue that often gets national attention, and yet it has been very hard to get legislative change. Much of the discourse turns to finger-pointing and blame games rather than working together about how we can better support parents and their children. And I'm so proud that here in Arizona we took this action. I want to thank the bill sponsors, Representative Fink and Senator Mesnard, for championing these bills and not only getting them to the finish line, but doing so with huge bipartisan support. And thank you also to Hope for having the courage to turn your tragedy into positive change. Together, we have taken action to protect children from abusers, and this is something that I will always work to do, protect kids from those who would do them harm, and I'm proud to work with legislators who also want to do that. And with that, I will bring up Senator Mesnard.
Thank you, Governor. I'll keep my remarks brief. Mostly just want to say thank you to all the advocates who participated, Ms. Fink in the House and others, and the Governor for signing these bills. Obviously, our hope is that you have loving parents who want to engage with their kids in these unfortunate custody disputes. But not every situation is like that. Unfortunately, there are bad actors out there, and if you don't take the proper consideration of what has happened in the past, namely with regard to domestic violence, then you are in effect putting kids in harm's way. These bills make clear that the safety of the child or children is paramount. Again, we want loving parents, but when one is a danger to the other parent or to their child, this provides the mechanism for courts to take into consideration all the facts and circumstances to make sure that the proper outcome is arrived at. So again, I want to say thank you to all involved. We obviously want to celebrate. There are differences between both sides of the aisle, but this is one where we could come together and aim at protecting victims of domestic violence and ensuring child safety. Thank you very much. And Ms. Fink.
Thank you. Right now, I feel very humbled that I had the opportunity to be the sponsor of this bill. I'm so grateful for all those that worked with me to be able to bring this across the finish line. I was willing to move forward with this as I had worked with some items in family court. I saw over and over again where children were given back to abusers. And to hear some of the children's testimony and their concerns, it broke my heart. I said, this is not right. And so therefore, I moved forward with this bill, but again, I had a lot of help to bring this forward. And again, this was bipartisan because it doesn't matter what political party, what socioeconomic, their children deserve to be safe. And they need to be, and that needs to be recognized in law. And so I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I'm humbled. And again, this was a team effort. This wasn't just me. I am here, but this was a team effort, and I'm so grateful for all of that. And of course, one of the big team members I'll turn over is to Hope Hooton.
Good morning, everyone. The Alec and Lydia Act isn't just words on paper. This is a groundbreaking law that does protect Arizona children and families trapped in painful, dangerous, and dynamic domestic abuse situations. As Alec and Lydia's mother, my heart is filled with gratitude today. Alec and Lydia were my sweet angels, full of light, enormous personalities, and so much love. I miss everything about them, from their love of Alec's Pokemon addiction to Lydia's love of unicorns and everything sparkly. While nothing can take away my pain and nothing can bring them back, this law ensures that their light will never go out. Their names and their love and their sweet spirits will live on for generations to come through every child that is saved through the Alec and Lydia Act here in Arizona. I want to extend my deepest personal gratitude to Governor Hobbs for signing this landmark legislation and making sure that domestic violence and child safety come first in family court. I want to say thank you and my deepest gratitude to Representative Lisa Fink for sponsoring and coming alongside me for this bill. I can't bring Alec and Lydia back, but I can make sure that other Arizona families and children are safe and that nobody goes through the unimaginable loss of losing children in this way. Thank you.
Everybody wants to gather around the bill sponsors and Hope, if you want to get. Yeah, right there.
You ready? Oh, yeah. This is 1720.
Got some on-topic questions for Ms. Fink.
Oh, great.
I do know to start with on-topic.
Thank you, Howie. I was going to yell at everybody to do that, so.
I appreciate, and I studied and listened even before to the legislative testimony of Ms. Hooton. And certainly in that case, there was a link between domestic violence and what happened to the children. But you're crafting a law forever. What makes you believe that every incident of domestic violence necessitates preemptively taking away the rights of that parent to decision-making, to unsupervised visitation and all that?
again, because of the safety of the children. That's something that we've seen over and over again. When there has been an act of domestic violence, that it does put the children at risk. And so right before, it was significant domestic violence. Well, in fact, I talked with the family court judge at the time, the presiding judge, Rhonda Fisk, and she asked me, I said, is there something I can do? And she says, please do something about significant domestic violence. Because what is significant domestic violence? Is it 2 black eyes is significant and 1 black eye is not? Okay, so therefore, again, domestic violence is important to be considered to the safety of the children.
One related question. The new bill adds coercion.
Mhm.
I'm married. I can think of situations where maybe I think I've been coerced into something by my bride, as sweet as she is. Isn't that a step too far in terms of suddenly saying, well, coercion is domestic violence?
In regards to that, coercive control is actually in statute in several other states. And what we've found in particular, like with Hobbs' situation and also with many others, that actually with coercive control, the likelihood of either the killing of the children and or the spouse is much higher. So, like I said, there is a pattern, and it has to be over a period of time. It's not like, oh, one time, and you're guilty of coercive control. I mean, I guess I could be guilty of that with my kids all the time. Get your chores done. But the fact is that what's important is that there is a pattern, and we have seen that it is something that also, if you look at the document that the federal authorities use. Basically, what the questions that they ask is pretty much what is considered coercive control, and that's in the legislation.
Do we have other topics? Reagan?
For the governor, quickly, some have said that this bill is a step in the right direction, but there are child safety advocates who, along with your opponent in the governor's race, have argued that there are other bills introduced this session and the previous sessions that would have strengthened protections for children and women in domestic violence situations that you have vetoed. What is your response to, criticism of bills like, vetoes like the bill on House Bill 2133 from this session, which would have required age and consent verification for sexual material published online? Why are some of those bills that get vetoed and this is the bill that gets signed? And how do we come together on those to, have more bipartisan solutions like this?
So I want to talk specifically about these bills and kind of address your question and also the questions that you brought up, Howie. Also, I worked in domestic violence for a very long time, and unfortunately, the situation that Hope experienced is not unique. And when victims leave their abusive partner, that abusive dynamic is about control, and so the abusive partner will look for other ways to control their victim. And when children are involved and the courts have to get involved in those custody situations, oftentimes that abusive partner will use the courts as a form of being able to continue to control that victim. That's that coercive control. And until this became law, the courts didn't have in statute a way to be more protective to that abuse victim. And so this is a change that has needed to happen for a very long time. I don't know if someone from ACES-DV is here that wants to jump in and also add to that, but I can tell you when I was working with victims, if these things had been in law, and it's not that we hadn't tried to make changes. There's a very active lobby for abusive parents out there, and so it was just really hard to make the change, and I'm really grateful for Hope coming forward and having the courage to use her tragedy to make this happen, finally. I am always going to work to protect Arizona's children, and I have worked across the aisle to do that. I've spent my whole career as a social worker working to protect children, and I don't remember the specifics about the bill you mentioned, and I know there's a couple others out there, but we always work with the bill sponsor when we can to get a solution that works for Arizona, and I will continue to do that moving forward, and I'm really glad we were able to in this case.
I have a question.
Do you want to do that?
I can do some of that.
Okay.
And actually, I may, so Patricia,
Yeah.
I may have you come up here and help me out as well, because I'm trying to remember everything. But the course of control, basically what it is, it looks like financial, emotional. So what they do is they do that controlling, finding out where they're at, just everything about their lives, and in particular money as well. And so that's part of the course of control, but it is a pattern that needs to be identified over a period of time. So, and this is new to the law. So therefore, yes, it takes into effect because it's a substantial change. And so anyway, but I'll turn it over to Pat too, because she can help me out as well.
She's coming up. I want to add one thing. We need to remember there is an important role for the courts here. I mean, that's their fundamental purpose, is to go through the facts, and there's going to be judgment calls. We do the best we can to put definitions in statute. We look at what other states have done, see what works, see what doesn't, come up with our own if we need to. We work with the courts on this legislation, but at the end of the day, that's where these matters are going to be decided. We've tried to sort of tee things up, and then they're going to be making those judgment calls.
How would you respond to judges that are saying, like they're saying, you know, I have a crazy family law docket. I don't have the resources or the staff to make these decisions. You know, how would you respond to them saying, I don't have an exact definition of the course of control?
Just reach out to the governor with money that she has in the back, and we'll get them the resources that we need.
Thanks, JD.
I knew you had money stashed up.
I'll just very quickly say, I'm the managing attorney of the Family Law Unit at Community Legal Services, one of the 3 LSC-funded organizations in Arizona. And so in our family law area, we really focus our efforts on situations involving domestic violence and danger to children. And coercive control really is, it's a pattern. And it's a pattern of abusive and controlling behavior. And it includes things like financial control, but it's not something that someone agrees to. It's not an agreement that one party will know everything about the finances and the other party won't. It's kind of goes back to entitlement, when one party believes that they can control the other party and they have a right to do that. And that extends to the children. They believe that they have a right to control the children in ways that end up being harmful. And I'd like to just, I think, point out that everyone knows about domestic violence, like physical acts between one party against another. But coercive control is the thing that keeps victims and survivors in that relationship. It cuts off their access to financial, ability to leave a situation, isolation from friends and family, things like that. So when people ask the question, why don't they leave? Coercive control is the answer. And so this was a move to try to address that underlying cause that keeps people in abusive situations.
Can we get your full name?
Patricia Madsen,
M-A-D-S?
Madsen. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I think we got Dennis over there.
Can we go off topic, or we still going on topic?
Do we have other on topics? All right.
Got like a campaign question for you. You've been hammering your opponent over and over for increasing the sales tax. You yourself have supported increasing taxes and fees over your career, including doubling the gasoline tax, extending the sales tax for education. So my question for you is the campaign being hypocritical?
I don't think so. Look, I think there's a clear need to figure out how we're going to fund roads in our state. And when we have shrinking state revenues, and the primary vehicle for funding that is gas tax, I'm not supporting that today, certainly. And Prop 301, I think, is the education one, extending that. It was necessary at the time. We got Prop 123 instead. That doesn't raise taxes on Arizonans, and I support an extension of that. My opponent has continually supported legislation, both at the state and federal level, that would impose a 23% sales tax on every single thing that Arizonans buy. And so when I hear every day from Arizonans that they're struggling with higher costs because of Washington's cost hiking agenda, adding a 23% sales tax is adding insult to injury to that. And that's something that my opponent has actually sponsored legislation to do.
Let me follow up on that if I will.
Yeah, follow up on that.
Hold on, guys. Sorry, I promised camera next, and then we can do the follow-ups.
I'll be nice. bill that he introduced in DC and the bill that he supported here in Arizona, it would have come out a wash, right? You're creating a sales tax to get rid of the income tax. The federal bill actually also had like rebates for the lowest earners, whereas you just wanted to double the gas tax. Do you see a distinction there?
I do, actually. First of all, the gas tax bill was not my bill. I signed on to it. It was not my bill. But this was Andy Bigg's bill, and I don't know the other parts of it and the math, but I can tell you the math for Arizonans who are struggling every single day to pay their bills, to buy groceries, to fill their car with gas. Adding a 23% sales tax on that, I think saying that's a wash is showing how out of touch you really are.
Okay, let me follow up to that. I should, one more on the gas tax. The 18-cent a gallon gas tax was instituted in 1991.
Yeah.
It's probably worth 8 cents now, plus we have more electric vehicles. I know you say you're not supporting the doubling now. So you've been governor for 4 years, you've been a state senator, Senate minority leader, you've been a representative. So what is your solution to coming up with more money for roads?
Well, things like Prop 479 is important for that, and that's one tool that we can use. The fact is, as more and more electric vehicles come online, we shouldn't be subsidizing their use of the roads with gasoline cars, and so I think we have to find another mechanism. I don't know what that is, but we should be working to find that.
So you're against the ballot measure that would prohibit taxing vehicle mile tax, which would affect electric cars?
I haven't looked at the specifics of that ballot measure.
Sorry.
She also can't say it's a campaign.
Oh, I
Yeah,
suppose,
so
what do you
since-
campaign is? What do you
Since
think
Prop
this is?
212
I can't advocate for ballot measures.
Some of the reaction to Prop 212 not getting enough signatures is that the requirements are too high for citizen initiatives to make it onto the ballot, at least for people who are supportive of that. Do you think that's the case? And if so, should the legislature be nicer and change the law so that it's easier for citizen initiatives to make it onto the ballot in the future?
I spent 8 years in the legislature watching attacks on our constitutional right to citizens initiative and continuing to raise the bar on getting measures on the ballot. And I voted against most of those, probably all of them. I can't rattle them all off the top of my head. But so yes, I think that most of those restrictions are bad. And when I had the chance to vote against them, I did.
In follow up to the fact that that's not going to be on the ballot, what should anti-ESA advocates be putting their focus on, or what can you do as governor over the next 4 years to restrict ESA since you want to?
Well, as you know, I've continued to put forward proposals that impose reasonable guardrails and rein in the waste, fraud, and abuse that we're seeing in the ESA program. And we're going to have to continue to work to do that. And hopefully we'll have a legislative majority that also wants to do that.
How confident are you that you'll have a legislative majority to get that done?
I'm not even focused on that right now. I'm focused on
You're not focused on politics or the campaign?
honestly, I'm going to continue to work across the aisle to address challenges that Arizonans are facing, whoever is in the legislature, and that will be the case with ESAs or whatever other issues are in front of us.
Governor Reagan? Good morning.
Hi,
How are you?
good.
Okay, here's the question. In the campaign season, usually everybody says crazy stuff, right? Since you have a Democrat AG and we have you as the governor, are we going to fix the situation between calling her out on what she asked you to do? Because that's really campaign time. And is it going to hurt your campaign if you don't have an answer from her?
We're in communication with her office, and I don't know what more to say about that. It's an investigation.
Is it supposed to end? Because according to her last time, she said it's almost over.
I don't know the answer to that. Again, I'm looking forward to it being over, and we've been in communication with her office.
75 days of the election, are you, yes, no, are you going to sit down with the AG that she requested before the election day, or no?
We're continuing to talk with her about the investigation.
Going back to Dennis's question from before, can you speak a little bit about what your campaign and what you are doing to give yourself a more friendly Democratic majority in the legislature next year, especially considering that would help further your agenda of making Arizona more affordable?
I'm focused on winning re-election, and on the campaign side, we're working with races up and down the ballot and making the case to voters about what's at stake in this election. And I know that legislative candidates are out there doing that as well.
Lisa?
Yeah, Governor, there are some bills, of course, you vetoed a record number of bills that have come out of the legislature during your term. Can you talk a little bit about your thinking behind vetoing some of the bills that would put more restrictions on sex offenders? For example, you vetoed a bill that would require the names of sex offenders to be published on an APS website, as well as one that would require sex offenders to give notice to their child's school.
I can't speak to the specifics of those bills because I don't remember all the details. I will say that when issues like this are moving through the legislature, we work with the sponsors, and I can't speak specifics because I don't remember those specifics of those bills. But
as a follow-up to that, can you talk a little bit about how you have made, Congressman Biggs's opponent, his opposition to some legislation, he was in the Senate, a central part of your campaign. Can you talk a little bit, though, about just how you kind of square that when you yourself have vetoed bills that would, put more restrictions on sex offenders?
well, and today we're here signing this legislation that is going to go to immense lengths to keep kids safe in our state, and I'm really proud of the work we did to do that. Andy Biggs has a really disturbing pattern of protecting pedophiles back to when he was Senate president and blocked a bill that would have reined in the pedophile cult in Colorado City that was abusing women and children, forcing children into marriage. And even the Republican sponsor of that bill said if this bill had passed, because it was blocked, because Andy Biggs as Senate president blocked it, women and children had to suffer 3 years longer than they otherwise would have. But going back even before that, he blocked a bill that made spousal rape a crime. He blocked my bill, my bipartisan bill that would have helped end the backlog of untested rape kits in the state. In Congress, he's continually voted against renewing the Violence Against Women Act, which has bipartisan support. And he voted to not release the Epstein files. I mean, this is a pattern, and this is a pattern that he won't answer to Arizona voters about, and I think Arizona voters deserve an answer.
We've been digging through the records and found that over at least $710 million of taxpayer dollars have gone to private schools over the past few years through the ESA accounts. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's wrong, and I've been clearly on the record about this. When the ESA program started, it was to support kids with disabilities and kids in military families to make sure their educational needs were met. It has clearly gone far beyond that, and taxpayers are now subsidizing people using ESAs to buy lingerie and jewelry and amusement park trips in California, and that is certainly not what our taxpayer dollars should be used for, and I have proposed every year reasonable guardrails to rein that abuse in, and I will continue to do that until we get something done.
Would that include private schools too, private school usage of ESAs?
I don't think we're getting rid of ESAs. I think that we have to rein in the abuse that we're seeing.
All right, we have like time for 1, 2 more, so.
Yeah.
Governor, I wanted to ask you about, you talked as a lawmaker, your opposition to these efforts to restrict citizen access to the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, last year you signed this Axon bill that restricted citizen access to the ballot by stopping a local vote on that project. So what are the interests that you put ahead of voters' ability to weigh in on topics?
I think in that particular situation, this was a city council. First of all, the city council voted unanimously in support of Axon, and then backtracked on that. And they were using their positions to stop a company from growing. And this is an Arizona-grown company, a company that was going to take their thousands of jobs to Florida or Texas, and we stopped that from happening. And I support, there were many things that the city council could have done to speed up that process. Instead, they kicked the ballot measure off to the following year's election. And they were playing all kinds of politics with it. And this company needed answers to make decisions about their economic future in Arizona. And I'm really proud that we worked together, got a bipartisan bill across the finish line that kept them here, kept their jobs here. So I think it's really a different situation.
Wait, guys, yeah, hold on. Okay, you get the last one, and
So
then
in
you
the
go to
future,
wraps.
should a voter be concerned that if there is a proposition or a project that deals with economic development, that your administration will step in and Bigfoot and prevent their ability to access the ballot?
No, we did exactly the opposite in Marana. There was a data center Marana issue. They were trying to keep that off the ballot. I vetoed that legislation.
Yeah, but this bill allows votes to not happen if voters choose to do them in cities of certain sizes.
It was limited to this one situation.
All right, Scholar Wraps.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.